Everybody, Kaoiji here. Before I go and say anything, thank you so very much. At the time of making this video, we hit 3,000 subscribers, and it honestly blows my mind to even know that we even got here. For a long time, I honestly felt like I didn't really belong in the PSO2 community after coming from some other game communities. That feeling of, am I too toxic, has always really weighed in on my mind. But so far, the positive reception behind all of you guys and the creators within the community, honestly, thank you so very much. And as I say on my live stream all the time, thank you so very much for allowing me to do what I love day in and day out. Anyway, let's get into the video. For those of you guys who are currently playing PSO2, you know that we're going to be getting Divide Quest soon, which also then means a newer weapon series. Now, the Purist and Still weapon series are incredibly strong. However, I'm going to be skipping them mainly because I don't feel as if I can take the full advantage of these weapons. But before we go into some of the reasons why I'm not going to be getting into them, let me fill you in on what these weapons actually are, because not all of the information is currently there, especially when you guys look at things like the wikis and whatnot. The Pierce and Still weapon series are actually incredibly strong, and while their name may change over in the global version, their stats won't. Now, the first step in the series is actually the Purest weapon. Now, for most of them, it's actually just a little bit below the light stream in terms of attack, but with the ability of being able to support S abilities 1, 2, 3, and 5, these weapons actually boast some of the highest attack within all of the weapons currently, up until we start getting some things like the Dark Banisher and the Lightweaver weapons, which are what's called the final weapon series in PSO2. But before we get completely sidetracked, let's start talking about the potentials on these weapons as well. As many of you guys know, the way that you determine whether or not weapons are good is by their potential and how often you can use them. Now, the Purest weapon actually has a potential that says at level 3, power bonus decreases when taking damage and recovers over time. When the power bonus is 16%, becomes massive and gains 40% damage resistance. Now, there is one thing to know about this weapon series is that there is a baseline power bonus, that power bonus being 10%, leading all the way up to 16% whenever you get hit. It also doesn't immediately go down to 10%, like let's say with the Gix weapons, if you guys are familiar with those, where they have an incredibly strong potential, assuming that you don't get hit. This weapon series actually makes it so that way you still are able to use them and they're still incredibly strong. Even when you do, you just become even better whenever you do get the power bonus. And the Purest weapons can then be upgraded into the Still weapons, which are literally just an upgrade from the Purest weapons, having a little bit higher attack and still having the S slots 1, 2, 3, and 5. The only difference this time around is actually the potential. At level 3, the potential then says power bonus decreases when taking damage and recovers over time. That power bonus is 16%, gain 40% damage resistance, increase natural PP recovery by 60%, and regenerate an additional 20 PP every 10 seconds while also becoming massive. One thing that we didn't really go over before is that when they say massive, what they actually mean is that you basically gain the effects of what's called Hunter Massive, which will reduce the amount of damage that you'll take and then also prevent most knockback effects. So when you look at this weapon series, immediately you go, wow, that's actually really good. You get 1, 2, 3, and 5, which means you can have a ton of damage. The Still weapons, so long whenever you're not getting hit, will then continue to go out and give you PP regeneration. And then you start looking into some of the other finer details in this. But the reason that I'm skipping them is mainly due to the way that we're progressing in global. While I'm going to be farming Divide Quest pretty much every single day going forward up until the next weapon series comes out, there's a solid chance that I'll be able to get the weapon straight out the gate and not have to worry about anything. But because some of the later weapon series, like let's say the Lightweaver and the Dark Banisher weapons, are going to be using Lumen fragments, I'm going to skip out on them entirely, because those same Lumen fragments you're also going to need to use in the Dark Banisher and Lightweaver weapons whenever they finally get released in global. Now, one other thing to keep in mind is that these weapons, such as the Purest weapons, whenever we finally get what's called True Profound Darkness, will also be able to drop in that same urgent quest. Meaning that for me personally, I see no reason for going towards these weapons right away. I mean, if you're anything like me, when you finally do get one, like let's say when True PD drops or the Primordial Glare from the Void urgent drops, or whatever the global name will be, I'll probably still wind up creating this weapon series just because I actually like the look of them, but that's just me. But one other reason why I'm actually not going to be going for this weapon series, I touched on it before, it's actually because of the amount of resources that we're going to be putting into them. Now, without getting the Puras weapons to drop later on, you're going to need 3 different weapons at plus 35. You're going to need 2 Lumen Mech Grain Crystals, 200 Lumen Fragments, 200 pure photons, and then 20 ultimate boosters, assuming that things don't change for global. Now, the lucky thing is that everything here is able to be farmed in divide quests, so you don't really have to go too far out of your normal day-to-day grind to be able to get all of these things. But again, it's still just a little bit more than what I'm willing to spend on getting this weapon series, especially because the still weapon upgrade requires a little bit more. Now, we're going to need for the still weapon upgrade is you're still going to need 500 lumen fragments, you're still going to need 6 lumen grain crystals, and then you're going to need 25 Varuna modules, 25 Mitra modules, and then 50 Execore modules. And again, like I said before, none of this is going to be too out of the ordinary considering the fact that you're going to be farming them anyway. But just to give you guys a little bit of a spoiler warning, the next weapon series is going to need this as well. I'm going to be covering this in another video going forward when we start talking about the Dark Banisher weapon series. But just to give you guys a little bit of heads up, as just to further prove my point, you're going to need 200 lumen fragments, 30 ultimate boosters, 100 Plamnia, 50 emeralds, 200 X cubes, and then 20 primordial darkstone demos, which is going to be a new resource that'll drop, similar to like void fragments out of Persona. Now, while I still think the Purus and still weapons are incredible and they're definitely worth going for if you're looking for an immediate upgrade, like let's say that you missed out on getting your liberate weapons or your lightstream weapons, then you can definitely work towards your Purus and still weapons. But for me personally, with the way that global's working and the way that we're progressing through things, I just feel like this is something that's worth skipping out on this time. Anyway, I think I'm going to end the video out here. So for anybody who made it to this point of the video, I just want to give you guys a huge thank you again for listening to me talk about so many different topics and for letting me be me. Going from a Twitch creator to then also a YouTube creator has been an incredibly daunting task. And honestly, it's been a hell of a ride and it's been a lot of fun. Some of you guys in the comment sections have actually made your way into my Discord or even made your way into my live streams. And so again, seriously, thank you for choosing to spend your time with me. You can't get that back. So thank you. And if you're a creator and you're one of the new friends that I've been able to make recently, thank you so very much. You're also just as amazing. And I'll see you guys on PSO. Anyway, stay awesome, stay beautiful. I'll see you guys next time. Peace. I'm out.